Hi, I'm going to talk more about the Revel kit, and the topic of this video is water resistant versus waterproof. If you want a waterproof electric skateboard, you get a one wheel. And if you want an electric longboard that has long range and goes really fast, then you have to recognize that nothing is really waterproof out there. Boosted Board put a ton of effort into making theirs a waterproof board. They advertised it as waterproof. People drove through puddles. They had some battery, I wouldn't call them explosions, but some battery fires. They put a hold on distribution. They worked on it for months and didn't send any out. You can see they did a lot here. They've got two, rigid shells that go together. They've got a gasket under here. They got bolts all the way around. They got a grommet there, and they still couldn't get it to be waterproof. So then they said, okay, it's not a waterproof skateboard, it's water resistant. And really there's no such thing, no real point in having a waterproof electric longboard, because if you get water in your motors, they're gonna rust and you're gonna wreck it. So water resistant makes sense, and people shouldn't drive through puddles or go riding in the rain. I actually hit a couple puddles by accident riding at night, and I had no troubles. But I know of two other people who went actually riding in the rain and went through many puddles, and they got water in their batteries and they had to get new batteries. So first thing is to drive a board the way it's supposed to be driven. But I have a few tips on how to make these a little bit more water resistant. So with a removable battery, you've got a lot more seams and a lot more places for water to get in. And personally, this is the area that I would suspect that water would get in, because it's right adjacent to the wheels. The wheels are going to be spraying water. The motor might spray some water. There's a seam back here, and this connection is right adjacent to that. So I would think if any place, if there was one place that water was going to get in, it would get in back here. So I'm going to show you some simple and some complicated ways of making your Revel kit a little bit more waterproof. So you're riding along, all of a sudden it starts raining, you stop and walk home with your board. That's the best solution. That's what I do. I do it with both my boosted boards. I do it with my Revel kit. Just don't ride in the rain. Other solution is you're riding and there's a few little puddles out there and you're worried you might hit them. And so this is a silicone bathing cap. It's a junior size. So I'm just going to wrap it around there. And ta-da, we have a substantially more water-resistant Revel kit. I haven't actually ridden with it. I tried a few of these in the stores. The latex ones just slide right off. They're too slippery. The silicone ones stick pretty well. And so that's one solution. So you ride around with that in your pack sack or your pocket. Second one is that's like it's like a $14, $18 solution. Here's the dollar solution. This is a dollar store shower cap. And so you take that, you wrap it around there, you tuck it in. And again, that's kind of a stop and Band-Aid solution if you think you're gonna hit some moisture on the road, okay? Now those are, you could call them cool, or you could call them not cool. But you have to stop and do that. So I've been working on a little mud flap. Now the idea of the mud flap is that it's gonna sit here, and if stuff flies off the motors and the wheels, the seam here on the battery that's adjacent to that connector where water could fall into the battery is shielded from the spray. And I think this is a pretty good idea. Now if you zoom in here, you'll see that I've actually made it cover up this little hole here too. If I want, I could super glue that down or use some silicone. And I've got a little bracket that I've made that is gonna go in there like that. And if I hold that down and tug on this, I'm pretty confident that's not going anywhere, okay? So I'm gonna show you the shape of these things one more time. So I've cut a little notch out here. I've made it the same width as the motors, just a little bit more. And it just slides right in there like that. And so what I'm gonna do right now is I'm just gonna mark the holes from underneath in the rubber. with my screwdriver. So if you look under here, you see I've got the screws here, so I'm just going to hold down my fingers on top where the screws are, give a little bit of a twist, and then I'll just set up with a little bit of drilling here. There they are. Drill. A little bit of drilling here. Okay, so that goes nicely over those screws. So now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put this back in here. I'm going to get my screws up through there a bit. Grab my screwdriver again. I'm going to mark those holes. Okay, that's gonna fit. Now, my plan here is I don't want to sandwich, I don't want to hold the trucks to the board with this in the middle. I want metal on metal. So I'm gonna use two sets of nuts. One to hold the trucks and the drive in place, and a second one to hold down the mud flap. Okay, and now let's put our mud flap on. Step one. And step two. Okay, I'm satisfied with that. I didn't get quite down to the nylon on that last one. But there it is, a little mud flap. I could trim that down a little bit more if I wanted to, or I could leave it right there. Battery pops out as usual, but this area here where the water could come in and fall into the interior of the battery through the terminals is much better protected that way. Now, you could take your battery apart and try and use a bunch of silicone to prevent that, but then you kind of avoid your battery warranty. So I think that's a pretty decent solution. Subscribe!